Good. Thank you, Antonios. Thank you all for being present, coming with the second seminar. In today's seminar, we have Holo, AMobility, according to the contract, and CERTH, that they will present us the service to monitor the inside of the autonomous vehicle, that is in-vehicle service for safety, comfort, etc. of the partners, of the operators. You can start. Thank you, Antonios.
Thank you very much. Actually, my colleague Christian Zicker-Nazel will start the presentation and I'll continue right after. So, Christian, would you like to take over?
You have to activate your micro, Christian.
I have to allow him, but I'm not sure why. Okay, I gave him control. Christian, can you hear us?
And now, Christian? Okay, we have some issues. Antonios, maybe you can start from your side until Christian could be able. Okay.
So the topic of this webinar is a service to monitor the inside of the vehicles. We have to. It is a collaborative work between CERTH and Holo, and along with other partners in the Avenue project. So the agenda for today, we have a brief introduction to the Avenue project. We are going to talk about the in-vehicle services, the different services, enhance the sense of security and trust, the automated passenger presence, the Holo Kit service, the Shuttle environment assessment, and the smart feedback system. We are going to see how we prototyped and validated the in-vehicle services, and also the interface we have created for this. Finally, we are going to talk about the lessons learned from this procedure, the different obstacles and barriers related to GDPR, for example, and the future perspective. And finally, we are going to see some demos and discuss. So, a brief introduction to the Avenue project. It is a 4-year project. The mission is to prepare the adoption and deployment of autonomous vehicles for public transportation. We seek new transport paradigms, and we need to test broadly disruptive public transport services. It is now a 4.5-year project with 20 partners, and we are at the final, let's say, stage of its completion. Currently, we have avenues organized in 4 use cases of autonomous vehicles. Let's say the large-scale demonstrators in Geneva, in Lyon, in Copenhagen, and in Luxembourg. Starting from 2021, the Avenue use cases also are replicating into replicator sites in Sion and S-sur-Alzette. Currently in Geneva, there was the Meillerin and now the Belle-Île hospital area with a fleet of 3 Navia shuttles. In Lyon, the Groupama Stadium area, an economic activity district with 2 Navia shuttles. In Copenhagen, Nordwand, Ormoja, and now the Slagelse Hospital, a multimodal transportation in mixed activity area with 4 Navia shuttles, and in Luxembourg, Plachenthal, Conter, and S residential area with 3 shuttles. So let's see why we need these services. I mean, some objectives and description. First of all, in autonomous shuttles, it's actually the future. We all know it. They allow some personalized services adapted to all passengers in order to enable true autonomous mobility as a service. However, the public transportation bus operator provides more than just driving. That means he has to take care of vehicle status control, for example, cleanliness, maintenance, He has to take care of safety on board about aggressions, littering, vandalism. He has to assist the passengers, passengers with special needs, for example. He has to cope with incidents, accidents, road blockage, etc. So an important question arises: by whom and how all the formal and informal services that the driver can be still offered, preserving the current high-level quality of service? And the answer for this is the in-vehicle services of the Avenue project. The suppression of the driver and the need to maintain the same level of these services required some different kind of services. Let's say the safety services, for example, the enhanced sense of security and trust, the automatic passenger presence, the sudden environment assessment. There are the assistance services, for example, the unaccompanied luggage and the follow my kid grandparent service. And now, due to COVID-19, we have adapted to some new services, for example, adaptation for the passenger counting for proximity rules, and adaptation for follow my kid for passengers wearing a mask. So the objective is to adapt, develop, and integrate a number of new in-vehicle services in order to boost the acceptance and adoption of these autonomous vehicles for public transport. We address several use cases. We are going to see, for example, vandalism, fighting, bus falling. I'm not going to mention everything. We are going to see later on in more detail. Let's start from the sense of security and trust service. So the problem here is that there is no driver, so no one has to perform first aid if required. There is a feeling of discomfort, being called alone in the night, for example, or in certain neighborhoods. There is no authority figure to keep the passengers calm, for example, school kids, and other incidents may occur: vandalism, bus snatching, indoor fighting, unaccompanied luggage. So we all realize that it's very important and we need a solution for this. The solution is actually to identify the passenger behavior and try in an automated way to detect some incidents. For example, forgotten items, accidents, people falling, other petty crimes that may occur, etc. So we introduced this novel service, enhance the sense of security and trust. To do this, we need some surveillance and we need some sensors such as cameras and microphones to automate the procedure. Of course, we also need some software to be integrated in the bus, and for this, we utilize artificial intelligence for automated detection. We can see some examples of bug snatching here and some examples of vandalism. Our system provides real-time abnormal event petty crimes detection, both on video and audio. We can see that using the red boxes, we can indicate an abnormal event. For example, here we can see the falling down, or here the vandalism of the vehicle. In these cases, a notification is sent to the operator in an automated way. Apart from the images we can see here, we can also utilize the audio events detection that was developed. That means we can accurately recognize, apart from the background noise, a glass breaking, a gunshot, a scream, a calling for help within the vehicle, and with increased accuracy even in noisy environments. Next, the automated passenger presence addresses also some issues from the absence of the driver. For example, no one will be in the bus to count the number of passengers and taking into account the capacity of the vehicle. Continuous stops throughout the entire route, even in cases where the shuttle is fully occupied. And also, no authority figure present to alert the passengers for a specific stop if someone asks for help. The solution again is to use smart software and camera sensors for this. So we address the absence of the driver, we perform enumeration of the people on board, and also we can identify vehicle occupation, vehicle free space, apart from the people on board. We can see some examples here. We have a camera on the roof of the vehicle, counting people in different cases. Next, apart from the accurate detection of the passengers, we have adapted to the COVID-19 situation, introducing a high accuracy proximity assessment tool to meet these regulations. So in these screens, you can see that the red lines indicate short distance. So a notification is generated automatically from the system, notifying the passengers, let's say, to go apart or something like this. We can see examples from the autonomous vehicles, and we can see also examples for even from trains that this system can be extended in any means of transport. The next service is the Follow My Kid or grandparent service. This aims to increase confidence of not fully autonomous people, kids, grandparents, disabled people, etc., that it may not be possible to be in the bus without a driver. For example, passengers are feeling discomfort during traveling in night. Parents are worried about their kids when they are alone. Caregivers also for people with dementia are worrying about their people. So what we are trying to do is to provide a solution for these people. We are trying to track these vulnerable people using their photograph. We can recognize whether they are on board, and we can say whether they are safe while moving around the city. We can inform also their caregivers using this face recognition mechanism, and these people will be more confident to use this autonomous mobility infrastructure, knowing that their people will be with them. Of course, we have expanded, we can see here some examples of recognizing faces within the vehicle, and we have expanded this solution also for mask-wearing people due to COVID-19 situation. So to do this, we introduce one-shot face verification in real time. Only a single photo is required from the persons we need to detect, and the system automatically detects and sends a notification to the operator, not actually to the operator, to the people that is the caregiver, let's say, of the person. As I mentioned earlier, COVID-19 adaptations were introduced, so even the system can ignore hats or face masks and provide this detection mechanism through the mobile app, as illustrated here. The next service was the Shuttle environment assessment. For this, we have installed an environmental sensor inside the shuttle. This is the aware element that measures different, let's say, parameters: temperature, CO2 contribution, concentration, VOC's concentration, particle concentration. So what we do is to forecast using deep learning methods the environmental conditions. By predicting the environmental conditions, we can control the temperature, we can control the air conditioning of the vehicle, we can even detect smoking within the vehicle based on the volatile organic compounds. So this is very useful because since driver is not there, someone has to take care automatically of the conditions of the passengers in order for them to be really comfort. This information is illustrated in the dashboard, the maintenance dashboard, as we're going to see later on. So the next service is the forgotten object service, a very useful one, because we are detecting and classifying unaccompanied items, whether they are human-related objects and accessories, using the video stream. This is a utility for lost items, so it is useful for the passengers, but also it is a utility for domestic security control, since it enhances security aspects. For example, in a terrorist incident, we can detect that the luggage is left and we can notify the police. An additional notification mechanism informs, in this case, both the supervisor personnel, but also in any other authority, or even can activate appropriate measures to handle the situation. To do this, we introduce novel neural networks, and as we can see here, the item is associated with its owner within the vehicle. The next service is the smart feedback. For this, what we want to do is to provide an easy and effortless feedback to the operators from the passengers within the shuttle. To do this, we need an easy way, and the easiest way is to show, let's say, some gestures to the camera that is already on board. For this, so the passenger can say that whether he likes or dislikes the service by using his thumb up or his thumb down, and just passing the message automatically. We can see here some examples, some screenshots of thumbs ups and thumbs down, and the recognition of the autonomous system. As already mentioned, we use hand gestures. Thumbs up is positive, thumbs down is negative, and here are some additional results from the final demonstration. So next is the prototyping and validation of in-vehicle services. Maybe Christian, are you available to continue? Should I continue then?
Sorry, Antonio?
Is Christian available? Should I continue?
You can continue. Christian, can you?
You have to
can you
make
hear
him.
us?
Have to make him a presenter.
No
Wait
need.
a second.
I will change the slides. Just Christian has to open his mic.
Yes.
Can you open the speaker of Christian?
You have to make him a presenter. He's an attendee.
Okay, yes. You have to give him rights to open his mic, yes.
Okay, Christian, now you're a presenter.
Thank God. It works. Perfect. You can hear me now, I assume?
Yes.
Yes.
That's perfect. Okay, yeah, I couldn't do anything until now. So I've tried everything, but now it works. That's good. Hello, everyone. Christian from Holo here. Sorry, Antonius, you had to go with the first slides, but it went well, so no worries. Yeah, prototyping, it's been a very important part of getting from the early stages of having algorithms, testing setups, and then taking it all the way to where it is today, where we believe it's a scalable solution that we can bring into any given Navi vehicle and make it work to a very high extent. We started out early phases in the office of AMobility in Copenhagen, where we had to simulate a setup of a vehicle inside an office, placing chairs and a lamp in a way so we could start to navigate the angles of the cameras, try to set up the Jetson computer, figure out how the connectivity could be stable enough, how we could monitor from abroad and all these kind of stuff. And then we went next page. Then we took it from the office once we had, let's say, approved the setup, tested and validated that we could have a system working with multiple sensors using the algorithms that CERTH has been developing over a long time. We took it to the test track, also in Copenhagen, and started to place the different sensors, place the Jetson, start to play around with how to connect to the battery, how to drive it in a vehicle that was not hooked up to a power supply. Version 1, we did it with cables showing, being able to work with it, being able to troubleshoot and make everything work. We found out that we needed to have an inverter to make it work with the battery without taking too much power from the shuttle. We started to play around with internet connection, figuring out how we could make it broadcast the signal in a way that would be stable enough for us to rely on the system. Yeah, and that was a really fun stage. Next page. Yeah, then we took it one level further where we had it installed. We started to hide away the cable, start to figure out where to place the Jetson, brought in an external monitor so that we could also see the health of the system, run different diagnoses to see how stable it was. We had, I think it's fair to say, Antonius, we've had more than 200 meetings from 2 years back until now, discussing, testing, playing around, making sounds, trying to fall on the floor, putting up faces in your algorithms, and it's been a really fun process. And in the final stage of the test track, we kind of found out that we were now at a level of installment that we could rely on. And then next page. Once we had the final setup, we took to make a very complete installment guide so that we were able to showcase to every other operator in the project, but also other operators of Navi vehicles out there, how to install the entire setup. We had a list of equipment, where to buy it, a total price of the system, we had our maintenance guy from AMobility take apart the vehicle so that we could hide the cables in the correct places, documenting every single step, putting it in a complete guide, which turned into a 3 to 4 hour installment process, which, considering the history of the development, is a very short time. And we also, let's say, made the guide in a way so that almost everybody with just a minimum knowledge of the Navia vehicles were able to install the system. Yeah, next slide. These are some of the pictures from the final setup in the vehicles on our Copenhagen routes, Slagelse. As you can see, there is no visible cables. Everything is hidden away. It looks super sleek. The first 3 weeks of driving, nobody really noticed it. We decided early on that for communication purposes, we wanted to place a monitor on the window, as you can see on 2 of the pictures, that was showcasing the CERTH interface. There was a couple of reasons for this. We still wanted to be able to monitor the stability of the algorithms, the stability of the system. But at the same time, we found that with these new technologies, when we bring them out on the road, people and passengers tend to have questions. And the more you can communicate clearly and visualize what it is that you're doing, the quicker they can respond positively to the technology and feel safe about knowing what's going on. Yeah, next slide. The demonstration plan that we kind of laid out for the services was to go through all the prototyping, as we just showed you, testing all the services that Antonius presented before, trying to find a stable setup, and then start to test it in the Avenue project. And we put it in the services of Slagelse and TBC 4 to 5 months back. And then we wanted to see how does it perform in an actual operational setup? What's the stability of it? How can we validate quality of the service and so on? And the 5 services has then been tested ever since we put it in real operation. And on the coming slides, we'll have a lot of feedback and info about the quality and what we kind of reserved and validated from the process. Yeah, so one of the things that was important for us, as I mentioned before, was to take it from test to product. So a huge part of Avenue and what we do with the funding that we receive is to take something from an early stage, test it, feedback it, develop it, make it stronger, make it more reliable, and then at a point we need to have a product that we can scale and show to the rest of the world that we can bring value to the ecosystem. And in this case, we've been testing from early phases, constantly developing, and a huge validation of the algorithm has gone in process. Thanks to Antonius and his team at CERTH. They've really been spending a lot of time testing, validating with us in Copenhagen and together with mobile thinking. And I think we have now a scalable product that can be installed in an easy to understand way with a few low price but still quality products that every operator of a Navia vehicle can afford and install on their own. Yeah, so the validation process of all the solutions has been undergoing for a couple of months. It's been mostly me and my colleagues at the Holo AMobility office in Copenhagen that has been playing actors in different scenarios out in operation. It's been a difficult process in a way, also kind of fun because you have to fight with your colleagues in a way that is convincing enough for the algorithms at the same time as you obviously don't want to hurt any of your colleagues. So it's been a lot of acting and a lot of testing to validate the different scenarios. In the entire process, we've been using the CERTH interface, which is the backend interface, and then the mobile thinking interface, which is the passenger safety interface. And that has been used to constantly validate what are we seeing in the backend. So what are the algorithms capturing in the vehicle? Are they seeing all the behavior that we're testing? and at the same time, are we connected correctly to the operator passenger interface, and do we get the right notifications so that we can act accordingly as an operator when someone is fighting or someone has fallen down or whatever it can be, that we as operators want to be able to handle swiftly and in a good way. For us as an operator, and I think I speak for most operators of autonomous vehicles, passenger counting has been a huge difficulty, because you have a safety driver that has certain safety roles inside the vehicle, but at the same time you are really eager to count passengers. And the validation of the automated passenger present feature that the guys have developed has happened in coherence with our manual counting app, which has been a really good testing process, because we've been able to see every time we count a passenger in our operator app, we save it on our cloud-based platform. Every time the CERTH system counts a passenger, we, via their API, take the data into our cloud platform, and that has allowed us over a period of 2 months to validate how precise the passenger counting is. And the small figure to the little graph in the bottom, difficult to understand, but the result of it shows that we're up to 85-90% accuracy, actually count the passengers correctly. And I think that's a huge effort and a very good result, because it allows us to use the safety stewards for other purposes: safety, communication, presence, all kinds of stuff, knowing that we can still count passengers. Yeah, in-vehicle service interfaces. I think maybe Antonius, you can explain yours.
Okay, sure. So first of all, there is the CERTH maintenance interface, the one that is utilized to connect to the sensors and assess whether there is a correct data streaming, a correct functioning of the system. It is a complete solution for in-vehicle monitoring. It supports real-time information flow and notifications, and can be integrated in any operational system as well. So we can see here the different modalities. The service enhances the sense of security and trust, the audio assessment, the automated passenger presence through the top camera, the follow my kit service, the smart filter service as well. There are some, the status of the modalities, the video and the audio modalities. There is a history. There is also the automatic passenger presence notifications, as well as with door status, distance assessment, and the environmental assessment part with the different environmental measurements. Again, this is a maintenance interface just to connect and see that everything works correctly. So it aims to be used for internal use. Next is the mobile thinking passenger safety interface. So Christian, would you like to explain more, or should I continue?
No, I can do that. Yeah. So the mobile thinking passenger safety interface is the interface, so to say, targeted to the operators that are actually monitoring and maintaining their routes. So the purpose of this interface is to highlight the important notifications that we receive from the backend, so from CERTH's maintenance interface and their algorithms. And the whole idea of doing all of the things that we have developed in the project is to allow for us to take the safety steward out of the vehicles. And today they perform, as mentioned earlier, a bunch of tasks, including communicating to our supervision teams. Once we can do that in the future, we need these systems to allow us to be notified when something of importance happens inside the vehicle. And so all the notifications here are different notifications that we have defined together based on the input that we can get from the system that has importance to us as an operator. So these could be stuff like a passenger fall. This is something we as a supervisor always want to go in and see what happened. Is there something we can do? Do we need to call the ambulance, emergencies, and ongoing? If there is fighting inside your vehicle in public transport, you need to notify the police. You might want to contact the passengers over the intercom system and say, listen up guys, you need to stop, otherwise we'll call the police. So there's a bunch of features that we as operators need to be able to do in the future without having any access to a person inside. So this system is a logic that brings us any notification of value that we can get from the system in real time. And this has huge value to our supervisors. We used it for the last 2 months in Slagelse, and our supervisors were really happy knowing that they got information the moment it happens and not the moment that when it's too late. So as an operator and with safety precautions and also responsibility, this is the kind of dashboard you use to monitor and follow your vehicles, especially from the perspective that you have 25 vehicles in one row. So you obviously can sit and monitor the video feed at all times from all vehicles. You need a smart system to notify you that one specific vehicle needs your attendance right now. And this is what this system can do. Yeah, then there was a bunch of lessons learned from the entire process. It's been a really interesting development project, and we have learned a bunch of stuff, and this is just some of the major learnings. If you're interested in knowing even more than what I will present to you now, we will soon upload the final deliverable from in-vehicle services, which will include a very detailed description of everything we've done in this development project. But for the sake of today, I will just mention some of the more important ones. We have obviously very quickly found out that high-speed network connections is critical. Having a bunch of video feeds and audio feeds and sensor systems running in real time requires a pretty good broad connection to Wi-Fi or to cellular connection preferably. The internal monitor is something we have found that can be installed for communication purposes if you want to. It's not a necessity for the system. It's kind of an add-on that we have also described in the deliverable as something you can use to describe to your passengers what are we doing and what is going on. Right now we are not connected to the intercom system in the vehicle, but this is definitely something we need to be for the future. If you need to act on something happening inside the vehicle, you need to be able to speak to them. So that's something we need to include in the system, the speakers of the vehicle. We also found that having few complex sensors that can capture both video, sound, and all in one gives you a more stable system than having 12 individual sensors that does one job each. The lighting conditions of moving vehicles have a high but reversible impact on the service quality, and it means everything that can be reflected, like mirrors or windows or sun being at a very low angle coming into the window, can cause some confusion and is something we are still working on. You need an inverter from the battery, otherwise you take up too much power, especially if you need a monitor. Law changes are needed on many levels, especially on GDPR. We will come back to that on the next page, but there's been a bunch of learnings in terms of how to capture and store data that we will come back to. And then, of course, a huge key to success and acceptance is the way we can personalize the services so that every operator can get exactly what they need and only what they need. And then, obviously, the new business models that will be there for the future is something we have also highlighted and submitted in an innovation radar, let's say, report, which showed that we have a very high level of market creation and potential. The report is also, let's say, referred to in our deliverable if you want to read more on that one. And I think that covers all of it. Yeah, then obstacles and barriers for GDPR. We have found that GDPR is not the same in every country, even though the European Commission has an idea that it should be normalized across borders. We have seen in the Nordic countries, for example, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, that we have a different approach to GDPR. And as long as we can prove that it's for safety purposes, we can be allowed to do more stuff than they can, for example, do in Geneva. So there's some learnings on that. There's a lot of rules about location and communication of data, where you store your data, where you anonymize it, where you have servers. It's a super complex system, but it's something that we have taken into account when we describe the maturity of the solution. The system data captured in the vehicle can only be owned by the operators. There's been a huge confusion over time about who has access to what data. As an operator moving passengers from A to B, it's on your terms and conditions and your privacy policy to, let's say, be compliant with the law, and that's why you can be the only owner of the data. If anyone has to get the data from you, it has to be processed and anonymized in the country of operation before it can be shared with anyone. And obviously we need to delete data every 3 months, so we don't keep any sensitive data. And then obviously data processing agreements has to be established in a way that both parties using the data can prove in their local countries with their own local laws that we are anonymizing the data correctly, we are keeping it correctly, and that we are sharing and transfer it correctly as well.
The future perspectives of the system, they are quite a few. So Avenue sites will continue operating with plans to become permanent services and aiming to expand to larger areas and incorporate more green buses. Also, the evaluation of acceptance of the services and lessons learned we just discussed will formulate the base for a large-scale deployment. We are going to investigate new services targeting the passenger comfort and safety and evaluate under real operation conditions, aiming also to address the objectives of the project, that is the accelerating autonomous mobility within Europe. However, we are going also to integrate in operational lines and multiple vehicles, not necessarily autonomous, since this service can be also utilized in current buses, trams, trains in various locations. We are going also to evolve the services through further research in the context of new projects. And finally, we are going to investigate of commercial opportunities, since this work was considered of a very high level of market creation potential, as already discussed. So this was a very brief presentation of the whole services that was developed. We are going now next to see some demonstrations, some videos from the installation, but also the operation of the services. So let's start with a brief video regarding deployment and testing. I don't know, maybe Christian, you would like also to comment at the beginning, but we just see how the sensors and the cameras are installed within your vehicle. Next, we are going to see some, let's say, descriptions of the services. This is a passenger counting. These are the first, let's say, assessment of the service while during the installation in Holo facilities, detection of abnormal events. We are going to see more detail later on through the dashboard. This, let's say, was the initial test before deployment in the real line.
It looks like I'm actually kicking the shuttle, but it is in slow motion.
He's very realistic on this. Now, let's see the demonstration from the cycles pilot side. So we can see here an overview of the maintenance dashboard. As already discussed, the different components are here. The services enhance the sense of security and trust, audio, automated passenger service, follow my key, the smart feedback. There are the different modalities, video and audio, history, metrics, environmental information, Now we're going to see some fighting scenario. So here we can see what's happening, and also a fight is detected in the operator's dashboard. So the finding is also detected here. So everything normal, but someone stealing the bug. And also screaming is detected by the system, by the audio modality. You can see here Christian vandalizing the vehicle, and the system detects and the notification goes to the operator. Also, we can detect people falling, for example, in hard braking. And here is the smart feedback service. You can see here, everything is good, thumbs up. And if something negative occurs, thumbs down. You can recognize people on board with the Follow My Kit service. Here is Christian. You can also track people and more people. Here is Sophie and Christian. We've extended this with the proximity assessment tool. Here we can see red lines that people are really close together, and green lines illustrate that the distance is okay. We also assess the environmental conditions. You can see here all these parameters about air quality and pollutant metrics. You can also detect smoking scenarios. If someone tries to light a cigarette, the system here they try to light a cigarette, and the system detects it. So all the data, all the processing is on board, and only metadata are transferred out of the vehicle in order to meet the GDPR rules and to be safe in terms of data handling. So this was the demonstration in, let's say, Sluggish and in Holo facilities. Next, we demonstrated also, we installed the system in the Belite site. Taking into account all the lessons learned from the Holo site in Sluggish, the installation was quite easier. We can see here some feed from formal meeting within the vehicle. Here, Melissa demonstrates the system to some officials. All the services are also running currently in Belite site. This is the audio spectrogram and abnormal detection tools. This is the proximity assessment tool. Currently, the technology is operating in real conditions. So we can see also here some.
Antonis,
yes?
Can you speak close to the microphone because it's cutting? You have the echo suppression and it's cutting.
Okay. So we can see here the air quality monitoring tool. use as well. Some normal scenario, no abnormal events, only background noise. Some fighting scenario also within these vehicles. Here are my colleagues, Anastasios Vafiadis and Dimitrios Tsitsiris. Fighting is detected. You can see some hold down scenario as well. To a hard braking and back snatching scenario also. So in this context, we have accelerated, let's say, the adoption of the services by introducing another site, the site. And finally, if we missed anything,
it's cutting constantly your voice. You're too far from the microphone. It's the echo suppression is cutting you. Whenever you speak low, it's cutting everything.
Okay. Can you hear me now better?
Yes, but
okay.
Keep it closer.
Okay. So I think that's all for the moment. I think we don't have also much time. Thank you very much for your attention. It was a pleasure, the cooperation with Holo, Mobile Thinking, Unity, and all the partners in this project. We are very confident that this service will change the adoption of autonomous mobility in the next years, and we hope to accelerate through different new projects, through different cooperations, and we are open for questions as well. Thank you very much. So if there is any question, please feel free to ask Christian and me. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. As I mentioned, we all of this will be included in the report as well. That will come out probably next week. We'll hand that in. So there's it's probably 150 pages. So there's tons of information if you're curious to see down to algorithms and setup and APIs and stuff. So just to bring that in as well.
There is one small question that Miriam is asking. For the face recognition, how the biometric data is handled with regards to the GDPR?
That's a good, I think it's twofold question because as an operator, we own the data. So we don't save the data for filming video of everybody in the shuttle is used for safety purposes. That gives us a special permission in public transport to do some stuff. We will only scan for a face if you upload it in follow our kit database. So we will never look for a face unless we have it. And the optimal solution is that we will never look for a face unless we know that the face should be on board. So in the future, when it becomes mission, which is the idea behind moving from A to B on-demand base, it will be something like you have a trip, you have uploaded a picture of your daughter, she has a trip, we only look in the shuttle she's supposed to be in, because we can't scan every face constantly, we can only scan when we have a purpose to scan. And every single face we find that's besides the face we're searching for is not saved, so to say.
Yeah, so the idea is on this point to follow the model that you are not looking for a face out of an infinite number of faces. You're looking for a face within a specific context, specific thing. So it is a totally different than what Google is doing to have a general face recognition of all images of all the planet and make correlations.
Yeah, we can't do that with G.
Yeah, but plus the fact that whenever somebody uploads the face, he gives the author explicitly the authorization to look for it. And since everything is,
only on the trips that you have booked.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely right.
I unfortunately have to run,
Yes,
even though
yes.
it's super interesting discussion, but I simply have the next meeting starting now. I don't know if it makes sense to bring it up on the 20th as well. We will if necessary.
Yes, these questions will be asked as well, so it would be nice to explain it as well. So just to reply, you can leave, Christian. I just reply to Miriam who asked, yes, once the parent uploads the face of his kid for looking for it, he automatically signs the declaration that gives authorization to keep the scan and also recognize it whenever is requested. This is the explicit authorization. There will be a full list of disclosures, etc., to read and say, yes, I accept. So, yes, there will be authorization. Clearly, there are some legal issues there. Is it really your kid? How do you prove that this is your kid and not somebody else's kid? But this, we will try to solve it via the legal people to see how this can be arranged. The identification.
And this has to be translated also in technical issues.
Yeah, there are many issues there, but there will be an explicit authorization to provide it.
Yeah.
So thank you all for being present in this webinar. This time it was registered, so since nobody objected, it will be included in the site of the project as a registered webinar, and somebody can see it offline. Thank you all. Don't forget, next week there are the next webinars that are coming. We will send an invitation and a link to everybody. Thank you, and
thank
have
you
a
all.
nice
Bye-bye.
Have a nice lunch. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye.